Hello, gorgeous. I am back today, and today we're talking the language of consequences and using your goddess energy to stay unbothered. So, before I even get into the language of consequences, I have to make a little bit of I don't want to call it a disclaimer, but an introduction. And the introduction is that a lot of people that are new to this work that come in try to figure this stuff out from the mental plane, from the brain, from the logical, rational thinking. And the truth is that a lot of these principles are something that you embody through inner work. So it is a slow unfolding, a slow rewiring, relearning. And it is okay if you don't get it at first or it feels like you have to figure it out. But let me tell you, if you're not doing your inner work and you're trying to just employ some of these concepts, they're going to backfire on you because you don't really know how they work and you're just trying to mimic behaviors that other people are doing who are actually doing their inner work and embodying these things. So I just want to mention this because people will often try to make up their own rules or figure it out without doing the actual inner work that is the foundation of this work, and then get really confused when they're getting like half-assed results or worse, making things worse, right? So I just want to say this. So goddess energy is very much something that awakens or reawakens inside of you as you start doing your inner work. And it does not come from a place of I'm punishing anyone or, it's not passive aggressive or any of that stuff. But it can seem like that if you're just trying to use these concepts without actually doing your inner work, okay? So what is the language of consequences? The language of consequences is just the natural unfolding of life. So consequences are not things necessarily that you have to employ. They are not punishments that you have to make up, okay? So just know this because sometimes people will message me saying things like, he did this or she did this. What's the natural consequence of this? You don't have to come up with that. A natural consequence is it just happens based on you just living your life based on your values, personal goals, intentions, and how you want to express yourself in this world, okay? So the first principle of natural consequences is you getting really crystalline clear on what kind of life you want to have, okay? What kind of energy you want to live in, what kind of life do you want to express, what are you available for in life, what are you not available for in life. Some of these things are deeply encoded in us and some are programmings, right? For example, you guys know I have my 4 stages of goddess energy, of goddess evolution: basic babe, self-aware Barbie, million-dollar babe, and high-end divinity. And there are certain things that basic babes seem to value, but it's only because of their conditioning. It's only because of their lack of inner work. There are certain things that self-aware Barbies value, but again, those are not their soul blueprint things. Those are things that are their conditioning. So if you want to learn more about that, you can get my free workbook. It's linked in the description box, and I'll also pin it in the first comment to learn what stage you're in these 4 stages. So how you want to really live your life from your soul, from your energetic blueprint, will dictate what you are available for and what you are not available for, okay? So let me give you an example. I already knew that I wanted to live a life of freedom and luxury, okay? So what am I available for? I'm available for things that make me feel free. I'm available for things that are luxurious. What am I not available for? Well, anything that constricts me or makes me feel trapped, right? Anything that makes me feel that I'm not living a life of luxury, I'm not available for that. So if I was dating, what would be the natural consequence of someone showing up and he is not someone that wants to live a life of freedom and luxury? Well, the natural consequence of that would be that he would just fall off my rotation, right? I wouldn't have to punish him. I don't have to convince him to see it from my point of view. He's just not a vibrational match for where I'm going. And so the natural consequence is something that just happens, like, oh, that's not what I'm looking for, right? Those are not my values. So I wouldn't have to like punish him. I wouldn't have to send him a 30-page document on everything he's doing wrong. He just gets to fall off my rotation, okay? Let me use another example, language of consequences. So if my child is not studying for a test, then I need to let that play out, right? I can threaten him, I can take things away, I can try to convince him that he needs to study for the test. And some of those things might work in the short term, but the best thing that I can do, honestly, is let him get the consequence of not doing well on that test. This is actually a true example from our life. So years ago, my son was going to give a very important test. In fact, technically he shouldn't even have been giving that test, because that test was given to grades 3 level ahead, but he had qualified for that test through his testing, and so this was a great honor, we felt like, in his life, and so did he, we thought. But we started noticing that he was making a lot of excuses and just not studying. My husband bought him guidebooks to study. He tried to coach him into studying. I tried to convince him that, you know, he should do this. We tried literally everything to try to get him to study. And he would try to study and just wasn't feeling it. And so at some point, we just kind of like let it go. We were like, you know what? This is his test. This is his honor that he has gotten. But for some reason, he's just not into it. So we just kind of stepped back that last week, because we had honestly tried everything and nothing had worked. And so we just stepped back, and he gave the test, and he did not do his best as expected, because he didn't study. And all of his friends were, you know, calling him and texting him and saying, oh my God, how'd you do on this test? Because he wasn't even supposed to be taking this test, so everyone knew about it in his school. And he had to, you know, tell all these people that he didn't do that great. And he was really embarrassed by this. He talked about it for weeks, and he kept saying, I'm never going to let this thing happen to me again. I'm never going to be in this situation again. And the lesson that he learned from that changed his life, because any time that he's ever had another test or has put in a similar situation, he always goes back to, he's like, Mom, I should have studied for that test and I didn't. I'm gonna study now. And so there is nothing that my husband and I could have said to him that would have had the same level of power that that natural consequence did. And isn't it better that people learn these lessons for themselves earlier on, when the stakes are not that high, versus later on in life when they end up making these mistakes because, you know, mommy and daddy didn't let them make these mistakes when they were young. And so I try not to interfere too much in my children's life. I might, you know, give them my advice if they ask for it, and I might tell them what I would do in that situation, but then I step back and I let natural consequences play its role. And the truth is, because of that, I have a great relationship, a great friendship with my children, because I'm not trying to control them or manipulate them. I'm letting them learn the lessons that life teaches anyways, when you just let it play out and let it unfold. So that is the language of consequences. You can learn more about the Goddess Evolution from my free workbook that's listed in the description box. And just to do a quick recap, you do not have to create these consequences. For example, I didn't have to call my son's school and say, well, he hasn't been studying, so you should probably fail him. You know, he didn't fail, he just missed it by a couple of points, the highest score that he wanted. You know, he got in the second tier, but he wanted to be in the first tier. So I could have said to them, you know, you should employ, no, because you know, I already know that he's very competitive and he likes to be number one. So him being in the number second tier did not feel good to him. So I did not have to step in, right? Same thing with, let's say that my partner has a date planned for me and he shows up late, let's just say. Irfan would never do that because he is uber punctual, but let's just say that he was late. So then what would be the natural consequence of that? Well, that would mean that my husband gets less time with me, because if I had allocated like 2 hours for the date and he's late, then the natural consequence is he gets to spend less time with me. So I don't have to punish him, you know, I don't have to ruin the date or like now be like holding a grudge because someone was running late. And I'm saying this because a lot of times women think that they have to invent the natural consequence, but no, it's called natural consequence because it's natural and it does it on its own, right? But the first part of this is very important. You need to know what you are available for and what you are not available for. So with the last example, let's say that I was dating and a guy was repeatedly late. So in that case, he would fall off my rotation, because if that's something I was not available for, then I wouldn't accept further dates from him after the first couple of times he was late, or the first time he was late, right? So do you see how it works? It's a twofold thing. I need to really know what kind of life I want to express, what I'm available for, what I'm not available for. Like in my parenting, I am not available for being a controlling, overbearing parent. That's just not how I want to express my time and my life energy on this planet. So that means that I get to employ natural consequences to teach my children the important lessons that they need to learn from life, and I get to be their guide and their mentor should they seek that out, but I don't have to control them. But if I didn't know what kind of a parent I wanted to be, then I would just get caught up in the day-to-day stuff and not have any intention behind how I was showing up in the interaction, okay? So I hope this was useful for you. And the biggest thing for all of this is that I get to stay a queen. I get to be unbothered. I get to not punish people or hold grudges or be resentful, and life just gets to play out in the beautiful way that it always plays out, right? I love you, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.